All right, good morning, everyone. It's 7 a.m., August 14th, 2019, and we'll call this meeting of the Fergus Falls City Council Committee of the Whole to order. Roll call, please.
Rufus absent, Thompson.
Here.
Ferguson's absent. Gustafson.
Here.
Hicks.
Yeah.
Fish is absent. Hagbert.
Here.
Honey.
Here. We have a quorum. First item of discussion this morning is an update on West Central Initiative, and we'll call on Rebecca Peterson and Sam Van Wenchel.
Yes, I brought my
Good morning, Sam and Rebecca.
newest member of my team, Samantha Van Wetchel Meyer. And thanks for having us here so early in the morning. We're here to give our annual update, and thank you for your ongoing participation and partnership. I have to tell you that it was just like a year ago, and Fergus Falls was the first presentation that I made on behalf of West Central Initiative. And I think I've done about 30 or 40 since then, and I still get nervous. But I have to tell you that last night we were in Detroit Lakes, and after we did our presentation, I wrapped things up and said thank you, and everyone clapped for me. So I'm expecting a standing ovation this morning. No, just kidding. So anyway, I just want to draw attention to some of the things in your packet. On the right-hand side, at the very top of the pile, there's our Otter Tail County update here. Just want to draw attention to the fact that we have two WCI board members from Otter Tail County, Mark Helland here in Fergus Falls, Sue Hipsch from Perham, and also council member Thompson sits on our EDD board. So we have quite a lot of representation. Also, just the impact on Otter Tail County, but pointing out some of the funds that we have from Fergus Falls, the Fergus Falls Public Library Foundation, the Fergus Falls YMCA Foundation, Friends of the Prairie Wetlands Learning Center Fund, Lakeland Mental Health Center Endowment Fund, Otter Tail Power Company Fund. So with all of these funds and with all of the grant making that we do from West Central Initiative, over $2 million in loans and grants over the last 3 years. Of course, a lot of that is the library money coming in and going out, but we've made lots of change maker grants in Fergus Falls, including A Place to Belong, the Fergus Falls M-State, the City of Fergus Falls. So we've been doing a lot here in Fergus Falls over the last 3 years, and actually none of it can be attributed to my time here. It all pretty much started when Tom McSparron and Kim Embertson were involved, and I know Kim had a lot to do with helping the library fundraising get off the ground. So kudos to the colleagues who came before me. Then in the left-hand side of your packet, I just want to draw attention behind the letter. We have this fancy gear graphic. I think you've seen this before, Councilman Thompson. We worked on it a little bit when our WCI board and our EDD board got together. We're pretty excited about this because staff and board at West Central Initiative have been working on this for the last several months. And as you may or may not know, West Central Initiative is a philanthropic organization and a planning organization. So this effort was used to put those two pieces together in this gear concept. So we drilled down on our strategic priorities, which are invest in local, reimagine regional, educate, activate, and celebrate. And then we move out to the next ring, which focuses on our planning side around the Develop MN cornerstones, and that addresses community resources, human capital, foundational assets, and economic competitiveness. And then our president and CEO, Anna Wasesha, took it one step further, recognizing that our work locally and regionally has an impact globally, and we adopted the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, the 17 Sustainable Development Goals as a goal for 2030. And when we got together with our EDD board, we talked about what's already happening in our region, and all of these 17 Sustainable Development Goals got lots of sticky notes and a lot of activity. So we know we're already working in this direction. For instance, zero hunger. Most of our communities have food shelves. Quality education, we're working on public education, higher education. Early childhood initiatives are a big part of our work. But to me, the most important one is number 17, where we talk about partnerships for these goals. And those partnerships include our 82 cities, our 9 counties, and all of the community funds and component funds that we work with. So on that note, it's just an opportunity for me to do two things. One, thank you for all the support you've given us. And also to ask you to continue that support, and I've spoken with staff a little bit. We're going to every city and county and asking for just a wee bit more. We have our Live Wide Open program, and they've been looking for sponsorship support, and I just said, rather than go to counties and cities 2 or 3 times, let's just do it in one ask. So just asking you to consider, you've been doing 7,500 every year, to next year, in line with our strategic plan, maybe do 750, and then in 20, 21, and 22, bump that up to 8,000. So just something to consider. And we know that we've been very lucky to stay at the same. Nothing's gone backwards in any of our cities and counties, but we really appreciate the partnership. Any questions for me? Okay.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Thank you.
No, in all honesty, thank
I
you.
knew that this was the only place I could ask.
Thank you for all the work that that you do out of the West Central Initiative. We really appreciate the partnerships and everything you do for the community, the county, and
Same here.
thank you. All right. Next item on the agenda, we'll call on Mr. Nick Leonard from Otter Tail County to talk about a project on a 60-bed facility.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor, council members.
Nick.
I hope tax abatement requests get standing ovations too. Almost as exciting was with what Rebecca had to share. Council members, you're familiar, I think most of you, with the 60-bed facility at 1174 Western Avenue here in Fergus Falls. Just give you a real brief history. The county built that in partnership with the state roughly 10 years ago. The intent was it's a 60-bed facility that was designed to provide what's called care services, community addiction and recovery. The state operated at full capacity for, I would say, less than 2 years, and then they dropped it down to a 16-bed facility. So for the vast majority of their tenure in that facility, they were at 16 beds or fewer, and there was also a period of time that they weren't operating at all. So you know and I know that we have significant chemical health needs in this region. We have mental health needs in this region. So about a year ago, we began working with the state to figure out this was the most expensive care facility in their system. Every couple of years, it was a question about were they going to continue to provide these services here, or were they going to look for a smaller facility? And so the writing was on the wall that we needed to be proactive, figure out how to get them into a facility that was better suited for them, and simultaneously utilize this beautiful facility that we have. So for over a year, we've been working on moving the state over to 1010 Maryland, which is the Catholic Charities facility. They've now been operating there for quite some time. It's been a much better fit. And then more recently, trying to figure out how can we best utilize this 60-bed facility. So we've been working for several months with a company called North Star Behavioral. They're a St. Paul-based for-profit company that provides both chemical dependency and mental health treatment. Yesterday, the county board approved a lease with North Star Behavioral, a 5-year lease that would ultimately allow them to utilize all 60 beds for both behavioral health and chemical dependency treatment. Their immediate plans for that facility are to use 60 beds of what's called IRTS, intensive residential treatment and supports. I'm learning a lot of acronyms that I hadn't been previously familiar with. So they're going to use 16 beds of it for IRTS. They're going to be used another roughly 16 to 20 beds for withdrawal management. They want to be one of the first withdrawal management facilities in the state, which previously was referred to as detox. And then they'd also be providing other chemical dependency residential services. So the county board approved that lease yesterday. It's a 5-year lease, but one of the contingencies is that we facilitate both county and city tax abatement. And so currently this is a county-owned facility. It had been utilized by the state. It's never generated tax, until we get a for-profit company in there, it won't. And so the goal is, let's get them in there. Their goal is to ultimately acquire this building. If in fact they extend the lease or if they purchase, we'll reevaluate the need for abatement. And ultimately, we don't have the tax abatement. Ellers is working on a tax abatement analysis right now. We've got a preliminary look at that, but ultimately we'd have that to you for your council meeting. With that, the ask today is for you to set a public hearing and to consider city tax abatement for a period of 5 years to potentially be reevaluated if the lease was extended. Questions?
Yeah, thanks, Nick. So just for clarification, so the county owns the building, but if they lease to a for-profit, then it goes onto the tax rolls. And so you were asking for full tax abatement? Do we know at this point?
It would be for the period of 5 years, it would be for full tax abatement. So the
5 years.
analysis,
Sure.
And this is the second company ultimately that we've been working with. The taxes, really, when you look at their pro formas, when you start adding the taxes to it, whether it's commercial or long-term residential, the math just simply stops working for them. And so that was one of the reasons Clinicare, who wanted to provide PRTF in the community, walked away from the proposal early. They just couldn't make the math work when you included both the debt service and
Sure.
the taxes.
Thanks, Nick. So questions for Nick?
Just like with the other, I can't remember where it was that we did the same thing for. How many full-time jobs is this going to be bringing in, did they say?
45 to 50.
45 to 50. Okay.
Anthony?
Nick, you said 5 years, but you're also saying 10. So it's a 5-year lease, but a 10-year abatement.
So it's a 5-year lease. We'd make a abatement request for 10. In the event that they extended that lease, two things would have to be analyzed. One is does there continue to be a need for abatement? So the agreement would be written in such that we could extend that if it's necessary, if the municipal advisor says, yes, this continues to be warranted, but also in the event that if they purchase, it would require a new tax abatement analysis.
Right. Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? I think that I appreciate your efforts on this, Nick. Obviously, these are both services that are needed in the community. I think law enforcement would agree, and so really appreciate the efforts to put this together. I think the first thing we need to do is I got to set a public hearing for Monday night on this. So if someone would like to make that motion.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Thanks, Anthony. Thanks, Brent. Are there any further questions of Nick? All in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Thank you, Nick. We'll see you
Thank
Monday
you.
night. Item number 3 is the equipment fund budget, and we'll call on our Public Works Director, Len Taylor. Morning, Guy.
Morning, Mayor, council members. The equipment fund budget is right now at $690,000 for 2019. We've identified some needs, and we have potentially $130,000 that we're looking to spend over what's budgeted for 2019. So I'm recommending/requesting that permission to expend that extra $130,000. There's 19 pieces of equipment in the fleet right now that have been identified to be either sold, traded, and 6 that would not be replaced. So we're trying to reduce the numbers in the fleet and then thereby also reducing maintenance costs. What would be replaced would be mowers, garbage trucks, dump trucks, pickups, just a variety of equipment pieces. Right now, there's a little over $1.7 million in the equipment fund, and this $130,000 would basically be the interest that's been earned on that balance in the last 5 years or so. So it's not touching the principal, and the cap that we would, or the amount that we'd like to target for keeping in that equipment fund is $1 million just for emergencies. So yeah, just the request to expand over that budget, that approximately $130,000.
Thanks, Guy. Questions from the
I have one.
council? Yeah, Krista,
You
go
said
ahead.
that the equipment could be sold or traded, and if it's sold, does that money just go right back into the same fund?
Yep, it goes right back into the equipment fund. Yep.
Any other questions? If not, Anthony?
Would we be taking it off next year's budget allocation, or are we considering leaving it at the same allocation for next year?
We've actually requested to increase it by another 3% next year.
See what I mean?
And just a little history on that. For many years, that budget did not increase, didn't keep up with inflation. So we are kind of behind in equipment purchasing.
I'd make the recommendation that we allow them to go 130.
Move that to the
Yeah.
council.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Caroline. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thanks, Guy. Do you have anything else?
I don't. I guess I would ask, did you get what you needed, Nick, or do you need additional action beyond just the public hearing? You're good?
Thank you, WCI. All right. With nothing else to come before the council, we're adjourned.
Well, there's only 3 items.
Breakfast it is.